with the Team Storm, Crimson, and Latimer match?
No, that was a wee bit into the program. That was the third match.
That's the only match we saw. That's the first match on our that we got a copy of.
Oh, okay.
But we might need to maybe readdress it.
Well, I actually watched it through YouTube, and there was sort of part 1, part 2, part 3.
Yeah, same as what we had. But
Okay.
Part 1, part 2, part 3. Part 1 only had Tim Storm. Because when I watched the match, it looks like this session's blown for the week. But when I watched the match, I thought, you're pulling out a lot of stops for an opening match when you're starting to Death Valley driver people through ladders and that. And I was critical of that match because it was an opener. I've gone, they've jump-started it by Jack Stain onto Crimson, and they're putting him through the ladder on Death. And I thought, this is a lot for an opening match. It wasn't an opening match.
Yeah, the choice of the match, as you said, and the position it was in, was a little bit strange. But and I think maybe because Tim Storm needed to get back into the commentary position.
Well, that was it too. I mean, you've got Tim Storm that's getting back in the commentary position. He's just gone through a barricade.
Yeah.
And the guy diving on top of him. He's his ribs throughout the whole match and jumps back into commentary as good as gold.
Pretty much, yeah.
The whole idea of pro wrestling is to dispel belief. So I don't understand. He should have just gave him the night off. Gave him the night off and let somebody else go and do his job and say, look, he's okay. He's out the back. He's injured. We should see him for the next show. But I don't put him straight on after the match. It was a little bit bizarre. That was my taking of it. Match was good. It
was solid.
It was a bit of a card killer because there was so much, between the weapons and the jump start and the high ladder spot. There was just a lot going on that was killing the rest of the card. So, it's very, very hard to come back after all those gimmicks.
Maybe just needed. And I think that was probably because of the whole Tim Storm wanting to be on the show because it was a big anniversary show. It was a pay-per-view. He's a former champion. There's no problem being on the show, but as you said, potentially maybe comes out for the second half of the show or something. Or
well, at the Chase, it's a legendary venue. Chase was probably the highest earning venue in the 60s and 70s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. So, I mean, it is for NWA, it is a legendary venue, and it is good to see wrestling back there again. It was right about the atmosphere of the place, but myself, I prefer smaller venues as a fan to go to a smaller venue like that and being closer to the talent and a smaller room, right, than going to an arena. Arenas, you don't feel like you're close to the talent. You feel like that you're spaced out.
Yeah, well, you're right. I mean, if you look at the recent SummerSlam and the one sitting right up the back in the bleachers, I mean, they were literally miles away from the action. Like, with my eyesight, I wouldn't have bloody seen them.
We're at the MCG.
Yeah.
And we were miles away from it all. To me, I'd much rather... I saw Motorhead, for argument's sake, in two venues. I saw Motorhead at Rod Laver Arena. They opened for Marilyn Manson. And then I went and saw Motorhead... I can't think of the name of the place, but it was in Melbourne. It's one of the smaller theatres in Melbourne.
How way?
The best concert I've ever been to. 3,000 people, all right up close to Motorhead. It was for me, I prefer smaller venues. And as a fan, I don't like the big. And as far as the production side of things, as long as the production is clean, I'm happy. I don't want to see fireworks or a Titantron that's 30 feet high. Vince has brainwashed everyone into that. Be good wrestling in the ring.
Absolutely, yes.
My eyes on what's happening in the ring and enjoying what's happening in the ring. I don't need all the bells and whistles as a fan. I'm happy just to see that. And I think NWA is in the right realm for that, right? They need to work a little bit on their in-ring stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I thought some of it was smart in that Crimson sells the ribs. Team Storm he goes for a Death Valley driver. He can't hold Tim Storm up. Tim Storm gets the win because of the bad ribs. There's psychology behind what they're doing. You don't see that a lot in WWE, and you don't see it at all in AEW. Everyone's working very, very fast. What do you reckon, Anthony?
This match was, for lack of a better term, was a car accident. It was practically watching a car accident with the rest of the spots. I gave this match an 8 out of 10, only because there was so many movie elements to it. There was something happening here, there was something happening there. There was all of a sudden a guy on a 20-foot ladder coming down to somebody else. It was absolutely chaos, and sometimes I find those matches to be a lot of fun, and you just don't expect what's going on. But the only gripe I have is the exact same that Manson had, was that with Tim Storm, he pretty much killed himself during that match.
It's well done at 50-something. Done a magnificent job.
Yeah.
He did a magnificent job, but to go out 2 matches later and be on commentary for the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, that's right. And it's not dispelling belief then. So, you've just wasted the time putting all that time in selling ribs and acting injured and everything else. But, that's once again would be for the management of the NWA and Billy Corgan to sort out, I'd say. So, or whoever's booking out there. So, what did you think, Pete, out of 10 of that match?
I gave it a 6.5, but as you know, I'm a bit harsh. But look, it was okay. There was, nothing terribly wrong. Probably the spot for the match, as you said, a wee bit of a card killer early. Brought out all the heavy artillery in the first match. Makes it a wee bit harder, particularly with the match that followed, which we'll talk about in a sec. And then the whole, but see, I guess I'm basing it more on the whole thing rather than the actual match.
Yeah.
If I was basing it on the actual match, probably similar to Anthony, maybe about a 7.5.
Gave it a 6. As soon as you pull weapons out, you lose marks straight away. If you've got to use kicks to get over, you've already lost 2.
Okay.
Nothing. Look, the match was good. Bit of a card killer in that aspect. I did like the psychology behind the match. Psychology was good, and the other thing I did appreciate too is all the guys look like wrestlers.
Yeah.
Fit looking guys, and like Tim Storm he's in his, I think he's late 50s. I could be wrong.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, I think he is. Amazing guy, and actually held the NWA up for a long time. So, well done to him. Good job,
School teacher by trade.
Is he really?
Yes. Apparently still teaches.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Which was something like George the Animal Steele was a football coach, a very successful football coach in high school and teacher. But anyway, we digress.